Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshudum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnivari Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, welcome. So today we'll be discussing the second half of chapter 2. So last week we discussed how to begin sadhana bhakti, this pure devotional service. And we said that it begins with actually the performance of devotional service, which then leads to one acquiring some taste, attraction to do bhakti. So the only qualification is to have some attraction. But that attraction comes from devotional service. And when one performs some devotional service, their attraction or taste increases. And when the taste increases, it leads one to do more devotional service. And like that, the cycle continues. So by doing bhakti, one increases its taste for bhakti. And when that taste increases, that inspires one to do more bhakti. And thus the cycle perpetuates until one has become fully awakened in Krishna Prema. And so then the question becomes, well then how to start? If the taste comes from the performance of bhakti, and bhakti comes from having some taste, it's circular. How does one start? And we said that it begins by the causeless mercy of a devotee. This agnata sukriti. Someone engages us, knowingly or unknowingly, in some form of devotional service. Even indirect, unknowing service has great benefit. I gave the example of if you take an orange and you offer it to the Lord, the farmer who grew that orange is getting some devotional service credits. They did not know, they were not knowingly planting the seed for Krishna, but because of your action of offering that orange, that farmer gets some benefit. The storekeeper gets some benefit. So like that, if one is coming in contact with devotees, even indirectly, they're getting some benefit. And ultimately, that will fructify into doing direct devotional service. So that is how it all begins. And we said how to know if I'm making progress in sadhana bhakti, devotional service. So the measure of our success is not how many years I've been practicing, how clean shaven my head may be, or how many verses we may know, or how we may sing. That is not the measure. The measure of our success is, what is the intensity of my taste, my eagerness to hear and chant the holy names of the Lord. So to the extent I have great taste, eagerness, this attraction, we know, have had made some progress in devotional service. So this is the measure of our success. So now let's just review again the definition of sadhana bhakti. This is the first stage of sadhana bhakti, and it means devotional service in practice. Now, practice means to engage the mind and senses in some work for Krishna. So we're engaging our senses, our mind, in some practical work. That is devotional service. That is sadhana bhakti. And the practice results in awakening our dormant love for Krishna. This dormant love for Krishna, this love for Krishna is the natural instinct of every living entity. And by the process of sadhana bhakti, that love is awakened within the heart. It is not something by practicing sadhana we are bringing something new into the heart. We're simply awakening what is lying dormant in our heart. And that is the goal of sadhana bhakti. And then we understood that there is a specific process, a prescribed process to awaken this dormant love. There are certain practices. We said this is devotional service and practice. So what practice? So Srila Rupa Goswami is going to give us 64 angas of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So there is a specific procedures to awaken this dormant love of Krishna. Just like if I have a matchstick, there's a certain procedure to bring about fire from that matchstick. It is lying dormant within the matchstick. But if I strike it against a smooth surface, it will not come out. But if I strike it against a friction surface, fire will come. So this sadhana bhakti follows a prescribed process. That is the key to success. And by following these processes of sadhana bhakti, one purifies. As one purifies the heart, slowly this natural instinct of love of Krishna begins to shine through. Just like if I have a diamond and it is covered in mud, the diamond does not shine. But it is shiny, it just doesn't shine. So by removing the layers of dirt and mud around the diamond, slowly the natural luster of that diamond emerges. So similarly, this prescribed process of sadhana bhakti helps bring about the natural luster of our love for Krishna by removing the impurities. So this is sadhana bhakti. And our mood in performing sadhana bhakti should be how to awaken bhava bhakti. So this is devotional service and practice. And the next bhava bhakti is devotional service and ecstasy. So the mood of sadhana is to purify by following the practices with such intensity and desire that one can awaken bhava bhakti. We know bhava bhakti is rare, right? That is one of the characteristics. It is sudarlabha. So but if one has great intensity of desire, then it will happen. So we should practice our sadhana with very good intention. What is my goal of sadhana? Not just to finish my rounds, but the goal is to awaken this mood of ecstasy, this spontaneous ecstasy. Okay? So that is sadhana bhakti. Now, we said that the essence of sadhana bhakti is to always remember Krishna and never forget him. Smartavya satatam vishnor vishmartavyo najatushit sarva vide nishedashur etayor eva kinkaraha. It is to always remember Krishna and never forget him. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras are servants of these two principles. So what it means when we say servants of these two principles is that all the other Vedic injunctions should lead one to remembering Krishna and never forgetting him. So that we follow these different processes for the purpose of remembering Krishna and never forgetting him. So it is not that, oh wait, this injunction isn't specifically remembering Krishna, then I should abandon it. No. The process that we may have of, circambulating Tulsi Maharani, I can say, well, that's not remembering Krishna. No, but by worshipping the beloved Tulsi Maharani, it should bring us to remember Krishna and understanding her great devotion to Krishna. So like that, every activity we do in sadhana bhakti should connect us to these two principles. Because this is the essence of sadhana bhakti. Always remembering Krishna and never forgetting him. So when we see these 64 angas presented in a couple of chapters, we should see, how does that activity help me remember Krishna? And in that way, we will bring out the essence of sadhana bhakti in our practice. Okay? And as I said last time, Maya is there to distract us while we are doing our sadhana. She is putting forth so many other temptations. But with good knowledge, we will remain fixed to always remember and never forget the perfect instruction. Okay? So now, let's review. There's two ways to practice sadhana bhakti. Two ways. One is regulated and one is spontaneous. Okay? So the first is this Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. And the second is Raganuga sadhana bhakti. Again, the essence of both is the same. To remember Krishna and never forget him. But these are two divisions within sadhana bhakti. So Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is we do service according to the direction of Guru and Shastra. And we do it because that is the source of our inspiration. There is no other source of our inspiration. It is an authoritative process, meaning that we follow according to the authority we have put our faith in. So one agrees to follow Guru and Sadhu, and Shastra, in order to practice bhakti. So it is a regulated devotional service and practice. Regulated. So we remember Krishna on the order of Shastra and Guru. And on page 22, Prabhupada gives this definition. Rupa Goswami defines the first part of devotional service, or Vaidhi Bhakti, as follows. Quote, when there is no attachment or no spontaneous loving service to the Lord, and one is engaged in the service of the Lord simply out of obedience to the order of the spiritual master, or in pursuance of the scriptures, such obligatory service is called Vaidhi Bhakti. So this is not some low form of bhakti. This is pure devotional service. But one has such faith in Guru and Shastra that one follows, again, as if obligatory. Of course, it's one's choice, free will, to surrender to Guru and Shastra. But having good faith in the outcome, one does. So this is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is the point which, when following Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of love. So Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is a spontaneous devotional service in practice. Again, both are in practice. We're going to see spontaneous love later, but this is in practice. Because again, we are within the realm of sadhana bhakti. So this spontaneity is not like the spontaneity we'll see in bhava bhakti or prema bhakti, but it is more spontaneous than Vaidhi. So regulated can mature to spontaneous. Right? So the point here is, in the beginning, one will work under the order of Guru and Shastra. And the result of this is one develops some attachment to the service. And then one begins to perform their sadhana on their own inspiration, not just because one is being asked to do it. Okay? So in this stage, one chants their japa out of enthusiasm, a spontaneous desire to chant, not driven exclusively by the vow. So you see, the activities are the same, but the motivation is different. And we'll talk about that in a second. So in Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, one is thinking so many ways of how to serve the Lord. Desiring how I can help serve the Lord. There is self-motivation. Find ways to chant more rounds, not just meet the minimum vows. Right? So this Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti has this spontaneous, and it comes from the attachment to sadhana that is born out of good Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So by performing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti very diligently, one evokes or matures to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, if that is one's desire. Again, that must be the goal in order for it to happen. Raga means deep attachment. So this implies that there is an attachment to the sadhana. Not just an obedience to the order, but actually an attachment to doing it. And so there's one technical clarification. We'll talk about this more in several weeks, but just to introduce the topic, that one can reach Krishna Prema from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti to Bhava Bhakti to Prema Bhakti. So that is one track. The next track is one goes from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, and then to Bhava, and then to Prema. So there are two tracks, and that is based on one's desire. And the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti track begins when there is no motivation for Krishna's opulence. There is no awe and reverence. It is simply out of love. And so the reverence and awe is not an inspiration to worship. It is just love. So we'll see that the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, and again, there's a whole chapter dedicated to this Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. We'll discuss just before discussing Prema Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti. So we'll discuss in more detail. But it means that one actually follows the mood of the Ragatmika, the Vrindavan devotees, because they imbue this pure love. Okay? So just a technical clarification. If it's not clear right now, don't worry. We'll come back to this point. But the main point here is that Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti and Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti are two divisions within Bhava Bhakti. So the difference, again, is the source of impetus. Why am I doing my sadhana? In Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the impetus is external. It is Guru and Shastra. The sadhana is performed under the order of Guru and Shastra. There is no attachment on my own. Guru says you must offer prayers to deities, and then we do. You should rise early in the morning. You should chant your rounds. You should read, render service. So one chooses to follow the order of Guru and Shastra due to the faith in the potency of pure devotional service. Right? So that is the impetus for the sadhana. It is external. And in Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, the impetus is internal. One follows the heart. Sadhana is performed due to a spontaneous attraction to do so. I want to go to Mangalarti. I'm excited to see the deities. Srila Prabhupada is explaining these examples. I want to chant my rounds. I cannot wait to begin my japa. Right? So the similarity is that the activities are the same. Chanting our japa, reading, worshipping the deity. The activities are the same. But the impetus to do is different. So in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, under the order of Guru and Shastra, having faith in that, one does. In Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, one does the same activities. But now, having performed Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, the heart has a natural attraction. So, this attraction comes when one has practiced Vaidhi sadhana bhakti very sincerely. So it comes from the regulated practice, then the spontaneous practice comes. And so we can see, our mood. And I'll show this, but this Raganuga sadhana bhakti, it arises mostly from Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. That is not always the case, but it is often the case. And likely in our case, that is where we are. Practicing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, and with the goal of having this spontaneous attachment. And what happens is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, one purifies to when this natural attachment awakens. So, just some examples. When it comes time to chant our japa, what is our mood? Is it, snooze on the alarm? Or am I jumping out of bed, excited to chant my japa? That is a measure. Sometimes when we see the deities, we have a very mechanical, we offer obeisance, see the deities, moved on. And sometimes else, we'll have a very deep attachment and we can't stop taking the darshan. So like this, in our service, sometimes our service is, maybe more mechanical, and other times there's a flow of ecstasy and happiness. So we can get glimpses of this Raganuga sadhana bhakti while we are in Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So we might get some glimmers and then come back. Get some glimmers and come back. And that is meant to inspire us to chase after that attachment. So, when I have this great eagerness, Bhagavatam class is coming and I'm running to the Bhagavatam class to get a front seat so I don't miss. Or am I strolling in because I know if I'm not there, I won't get prasad. Back in the olden days, there used to be a roll call. Who was in Mangalarti? Who was in Bhagavatam class? So, like this, what is my natural spontaneity? That can help me decide. But again, the activities are the same. The activities are one, but the mood in which one performs it is different. And so our goal is to perform our Vaidhi sadhana bhakti so nicely that we can evoke this spontaneous attraction. Right? So practice our Vaidhi sadhana bhakti with the intent to evoke this Raganuga spontaneous attraction. We should try to think that remembering Krishna, it's easy when there's a spontaneous attraction. In Vaidhi, it's sometimes difficult because we've been asked by Guru and Shastra to remember Krishna. But when that attraction is spontaneous, it becomes very easy. Right? So this path of Raganuga sadhana bhakti is very powerful. Because now, in Raganuga bhakti, I have this natural attraction, this constant remembering of Krishna, which is the essence of sadhana bhakti, which will then accelerate the maturation to bhava bhakti. Right? Because of experiencing so much bliss and happiness, one will practice it very sincerely. So right now, sometimes our practice is a little bit arduous. We feel like it's difficult to chant my rounds, difficult to do that, because that attachment has not yet developed. That raga is not yet developed. But by the practice, then that attachment, that spontaneity will come. Right? So, and we give the example, sometimes in practicing our Vaidhi, we think, why we have to be so mechanical? I just want to, chant whenever I want. I want to be spontaneous. Yes, that is the goal. But just like, a young girl who goes for dance class, she wants to just dance and move with the music. But in the beginning, the teacher will have no music and will just count 1, 2, 3, and you have to move your arm like this, and then move your arm like this, and then like this. And that the girl is thinking, I'm not dancing, I'm just moving my arm, just being like a robot. but we know that the teacher is teaching the child how to, create the muscle memories to be able to move and dance in a certain way. So that at some point, upon maturing from that practice, when the music is on, one can naturally dance. So like that, our Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, this is that practice stage where it's very regulated. But our intent can be to develop this very spontaneous mood, where it happens very naturally. But if our intent is just to finish our Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, then this raga, this attachment will not develop. Right? So we should try to cultivate this raganuga sadhana bhakti. It's an active endeavor to bring out this spontaneous mood. We have to fan the spark, as we have seen. Try to develop this attraction. And this eagerness to do so is what will propel our advancement. So, but again, it is not at the expense of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. It is not that to go to raganuga sadhana bhakti, I give up my Vaidhi principles. The activities are the same. I can't emphasize more because sometimes there's this idea that, now I'm matured, graduated from my Vaidhi principles. No, the activities are the same. But what is the impetus? What is driving me to Mangalarti, to chant my rounds, to read Srimad Bhagavatam, to render service? Right? So we don't achieve Raganuga by stopping our Vaidhi principles, but rather by mastering them. When we master our Vaidhi principles, then Raganuga sadhana bhakti emerges in the heart. So a pure devotee of the Lord is always following the Vaidhi principles. Always. But internally, they're trying to cultivate this mood of spontaneity. So that's just, again, an important point as we, set our practice of our Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Finally, I'll just conclude that why we can't go straight to Raganuga sadhana bhakti. Why does it follow Vaidhi bhakti? Well, the goal is to go to Raganuga bhakti, but if we follow our heart in an immature state, we may be led astray. There are impurities in the heart. There are impure desires in the heart. And if I follow those impure desires, then my result will be impure. So I cannot rely on my internal attachment until my heart has been thoroughly cleansed, fully purified. So the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, the order of Guru and Shastra, is to purify the heart so that we may then follow it spontaneously once we have eliminated all of the unwanted things. So that is why just, immediately going to Raganuga sadhana bhakti is very dangerous. Because one may think, Krishna wants to serve like this. But there may be impurities in our consciousness. And those impurities can lead us astray. And that is why we follow the principles. Again, the goal is to become spontaneous. But one must master the principles in order to become. So it is a progressive stage. So just in summary, we do our Vaidhi bhakti very well, and that will bring about this spontaneous attraction. Remembering Krishna is the essence of sadhana bhakti, and remembering Krishna, never forgetting him, is very easy. It happens naturally in Raganuga sadhana bhakti. And thus, then it can very powerfully propel one towards bhava bhakti. But again, the activities are the same. It's just the impetus is different. And this Raganuga sadhana bhakti will emerge when we have mastered our Vaidhi principles. We have reached the anartha nivritti stage. Once we pass anartha nivritti, that's when this Raganuga sadhana bhakti comes out. It occurs when all the anarthas are removed from the heart. I can say most of the anarthas are removed from the heart. And then we can spontaneously follow our desires. So this is the key. And there's two ways again to remember Krishna. One by rules and regulations and one spontaneously. And our goal is to go from Vaidhi sadhana bhakti to this Raganuga sadhana bhakti. So now hopefully we have some more clear intention of why I'm chanting my rounds this way. It may feel mechanical at first, but the goal is to develop this spontaneous attachment. Okay? So that is today's presentation. Any discussion today? Any comments or questions?
So, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm asking a very basic question. Forgive me if I am asking a problem.
No testing.
When I'm doing, let us say, Vaidhi Bhakti with some external force, okay, I have to do this, that. Then, after some time, I may not know that I'm diverting towards the Raghunaga Bhakti. But how our heart should know, or anything that's not something like that?
Well, again, it's spontaneous. It's natural. So you will know, right? But the main thing is that we should set that as the goal or intent of our Vaidhi Bhakti, right? So the goal is that, yes, I want to be spontaneous. I want to jump out of bed and chant my rounds. But it's not happening yet. But I know by following the order of Guru and Shastra, it will soon come. So I remain very fixed and determined to follow the Vaidhi principles under the direction of Guru and Shastra, because I know those are the powerful instructions that will make this natural attraction emerge. I mean, in very basic principle, we all want this natural attraction for Krishna. Otherwise, why we would practice even the Vaidhi principles, right? So, and you'll know in your heart when you are no longer chanting just because of you have made a vow, but because you experience an enjoyment and a happiness in it. And again, you may experience it for some time and then lose it again. There may be some moments, and on festival days sometimes there's really a spontaneous mood of service. Or if you're in the holy dhams in Vrindavan or Mayapur, you feel this natural, I just want to keep chanting. There's an experience. That is the tinges of this spontaneous mood, this Raga Bhakti. But then it dissipates sometimes or often. So our goal is to have it mature. It's okay?
So whatever, like, any event happens, if it's Raghunaga Bhakti, the person won't miss anything. He will run for anything for that.
Yeah. Because again, remember, the measure of our success is the intensity of our desire. As you said, they'll run for it. Right? They're eager to experience, eager to hear, eager to see the Lord, to chant, to sing and dance for Him, to render service. There's a strong attraction, right? We become eager when there's a strong attraction. Okay? You see, just when there is in the movie theaters, there is an eagerness to see the movies that people show up early to get their seat. Yet, when the Lord is receiving arti, people show up just at the end before prasadam. So we see, where is our spontaneous attraction? If we're having a flight to Hawaii, we'll show up 1 hour early to make sure we don't miss that flight. But there is Bhagavad Gita class coming, 10 minutes late, no big deal. Right? So we see that is our that is because of the impurities in our heart. So our goal is to bring that same eagerness we have for these mundane material desires. And they will mature into even much stronger attraction to Krishna, because the rasa is so much more sweeter. Right? So we can take the parallel. I made the parallel of our material attachments, not to compare them to be the same in any way, but we have a more practical experience of our attachments materially. Right?
Tangible.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, what is this difference of raga and bhava, Prabhu?
So this we'll come to that, and that's why Rupa Goswami is going to spend a whole chapter, chapter 15 or 16, I can't remember, on Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So we'll spend a lot of time answering this question, but I'll at least answer it in summary right now, which is that Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, it is spontaneous, but it is in practice. So it is still in the preliminary stages of one's progression in bhakti. By the time one reaches bhava bhakti, that is this ecstasy, this ecstatic service, but it's in a very advanced stage. So you can say that by the time one reaches prema, they have perfected spontaneous loving service. So one is in practice and one is in perfected stage. So that is the difference. It is a preliminary stage of this ultimate spontaneous. Because in Krishna Prema, one is fully spontaneous, right? They're just fully attached to serving Krishna. So that is the difference between Raga and Bhava and ultimately Prema. And so what we'll see is that Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti still, while it is spontaneous, it is strictly following in the footsteps of those who have perfected spontaneous service, and those in Bhava and Prema Bhakti. So what one does in Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is they follow a specific devotee in Vrindavan Leela that they have become attracted to, and they follow how they serve. So it is still following, but it is following in the mood of spontaneous attachment. So it is not just one becomes on their own, right? So, but again, the essence of the difference is one is in practice and one is in a perfected state.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll discuss that concept more deeply, and what are the emotions within Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti that help us understand that I'm truly, following these Ragatmika Bhaktas, and we'll go into quite a technical discussion about Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So the point, at least for today's discussion, and as introduced in this chapter, is to understand there are two divisions within Sadhana Bhakti, Vaidhi and Raganuga.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanva Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice lecture, Prabhuji. Couple of questions I have. First question which I had was like in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, if one develops a little liking towards something like more, like for example, if one to read more rather than maybe do more of deity worship kind of thing,
Yeah.
is it okay to think that way?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. It's okay to follow our natural inclinations. We may be naturally inclined to some services or others, but we try to develop, again, the attachment ultimately to Krishna. But yeah, it is okay to follow, of the 64 angas of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, we may be more naturally attracted to certain ones of them. But we know the core of our sadhana is our chanting, right? So if I'm attracted to one or the other, the goal of that reading or of that service or of whatever it may be is to intensify my attachment to chanting. But yeah, it's okay to follow that that desire a little bit.
And the second question is like in our homework which we have been given, there are some last two questions. If you could speak a little bit about it, especially like say how do we become fearless at the time of death, and what is the specific fear that we have? The specific fear that we have at the point of death, would it be like the fear of the unknown, or like fear of getting a new body? What kind of fear are they talking about actually?
Well, that is kind of the question, which is what are we fearful of, and in discussing this varnashram dharma, which we did not discuss so much, but Srila Prabhupada is presenting that ultimately we are fearful at the time of death because we are losing all of our possessions, everything that we own, if we are materially attached. But if I'm spiritually attached, then where is the scope of fear? Because everything I've gained in spiritual life is eternally mine. It is never lost. But whatever I've gained materially is always lost. So if I'm materially attached, then I'm full of fear because I'm worried that I'm going to lose what I've gained. But as a devotee, I can never lose what I've gained. So then there is no fear. So that is how one becomes fearless in devotional service. That whatever happens to me, whatever I've gained in devotional service, that is eternally mine. So the devotee, approaches the brink of death. And we see with Parikshit Maharaj, was he trembling in fear while he was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam? No, he was in full bliss, hearing how to actually approach this moment. So that's how that happens.
So basically a change in attitude itself, how one would think at the time of death.
It's a change in what I value. Do I value my wealth, my fame, my friendships, my relationships? Or do I value my relationship with Krishna? You don't fear losing your garbage. You put it to the curb and don't worry, I'm going to lose my garbage. Why? Because you don't put any value on that. It's not useful to you. So, to a devotee, it doesn't fear if all his wealth is taken away. It's meaningless. Because what they value is Krishna. What they fear is losing the opportunity to remember Krishna. They fear a moment of forgetting Krishna. Because that is their treasure. So it is a change of consciousness of what I put value to. What am I valuing? What is important to me? A devotee knows only one thing is important to me. This body is not important to me. What's important to me is my opportunity to serve Krishna, to remember Krishna. So I may maintain the body because it's a vehicle to allows me to serve, but if the body is to go away, okay, that's Krishna's plan. I have faith. Krishna is my protector. So the fear that the devotee has, or the concern is only, don't let me ever forget you, Krishna. Make sense?
Yeah, so basically still, even if you are spiritually inclined, so still there could be a fear, right? I mean, I understand what you're saying, that we will not, in spiritual life, whatever we have gained, we'll never lose. But then at that point of time when a person is dying, you would still feel that, okay, I have gained this, I remembered Krishna, I did chanting, all that, but what if I'm not able to do, if I'm not going to Golak Vrindavan now, then maybe next life will I ever get a chance to chant again? So that kind of fear, is it still okay to have? Or that, could you just explain that for me, please?
You don't have that fear because Krishna says in this 8th chapter, Arjuna asked that question. What happens at the time of death if one has not perfected the process of Ananya Bhakti? And Krishna says, if they have made a little bit of progress, they'll take birth in a very auspicious home where they can continue. If they've made a lot of progress, they'll take birth in the home of a devotee and they'll carry on. So Krishna's already promised us we'll carry on. Remember, this is not random chance, right? If my desire at the time of death is to finish my bhakti, then Krishna is going to fulfill that desire. He's always going to fulfill our desire. So the main thing is not to worry about what if. The main thing to worry about is, what is my desire? Making sure that I have how I purify my desires. And don't worry about, what ifs, and don't be fearful. Have faith. Krishna is going to protect us. Just as a child doesn't worry where my chapatis are coming from. They know, mom will bring. So like that, the devotee has full faith and comfort in the shelter of Krishna. And there's a fine line. There can be an overconfidence and there can be an underconfidence. Right? So we don't want to take it for granted, but we also don't want to become fearful that, oh my, but there's a healthy amount of let me be disciplined. Right? But again, Prabhupada gave everyone the guarantee that if you take to this process, you follow instructions, you can go back in this lifetime. He gave that guarantee. And he said, I'm giving the backdoor key to all of you. So, don't rest on our abilities, rest on the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And we perform our sadhana with great sincerity, enthusiasm, and no, remember, Krishna wants us to come home. He is not making it difficult for us to come home. We are making it difficult. He wants so badly for all of us to come home. So he's not going to slip a gotcha or a trick in the process. He is crying in separation of us. If you read Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you'll see he faints when he meets Gop Kumar. And he's going to faint when he meets all of you, because he is so overwhelmed in ecstasy, having been reunited, having suffered so long pain of separation. So, he alone is eager. Now we have to match his eagerness. And when that happens, don't worry. Boom, it's there. It's okay?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. And the last question, do we can just name those things, or we need to elaborate also, like the ashramas and varnas? Should we just name them, or do we need to elaborate?
You can just name them and explain them just in very short form. No problem.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, just for the understanding I'm asking. So, see, so the Goswamis or the Maharaj, they will be in Prema state, Prabhu? Maybe I don't know. The question was still.
Yeah, they are perfected devotees. But we'll see that one doesn't externally show those symptoms of mood. So in Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti, Rupa Goswami is going to explain that one does not demonstrate, and there's a reason for that, is one is sufficiently cautious that by doing so, one may become proud of such a position and thus fall from it. So internally, one is experiencing this extraordinary bliss, but externally they do not show. And there's one very sweet pastime of Narottam Das Thakur. He is an eternal servant of Champaklata Gopi. And he has been given the service to stir the milk, the boiling milk, that she uses for making milk sweets for Krishna. So this is Narottam Das Thakur's eternal service. And he is chanting his japa. And he is sitting like this chanting his japa. So externally he is sitting chanting his japa. But internally he was in such bliss stirring the milk that even a few drops of milk boiled over from the pot and hit his hand. And his hand burned. And so he is internally in full Krishna prema. Relishing. But externally, don't see. So the Sahajyas will externally put on a show of this ecstasy and crying and dancing and this. But that is an external manifestation. But so the devotee, the pure devotee, shows, and it's not one to broadcast, and it's also to inspire. So for that reason, yes, but we can understand that the gurus are reached. They are perfected. They are representatives of Krishna. Shakshat Haritvena. They have been empowered directly by Krishna for the purpose of bringing his lost children back to him. So they are directly empowered by Krishna. They're not ordinary personalities. Right? So they have reached a perfectional stage.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice question. Thank you. Anything else?
There's a question online.
Loud.
There's a question online. Sometimes we feel a bit depressed. How to tackle that in my family? I'm trying to be Krishna conscious, but others are Hindu. What kind of seva can we do from home?
Yeah, so the most potent service we can do, the question sometimes that we feel depressed or hindered by our family or circumstance to practice. So what can we practically do at home? So the best service we can do is to chant the holy names. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said there is no hard rules and regulations. It can be done anywhere by anyone. Yet it is fully potent. Nidya Sharva Shaktis, all the potency of service. So, our circumstance may not allow to have elaborate deity worship. Our circumstance may not allow to have such, elaborate surroundings in our home. But the most potent thing we can do is to take to the shelter of the holy names. So in our state of, anxiety, fear, depression, this chanting of japa is so powerful because you are calling out directly to Krishna. And he is hearing you. It is not a one-way dialogue when we chant our japa. It is a two-way dialogue. Krishna is reciprocating back. So in those moments of difficulty, in emotional difficulties and challenges, and we all face them, we look for shelter somewhere. In the mode of ignorance, we may look for shelter in intoxication to try to escape those difficulties. But with knowledge, if we take shelter of the holy names, one will achieve relief from those difficulties because Krishna will reciprocate back. And it's very practical. We can do so even counting on our fingers. If we cannot have japa beads and go to that extreme. But at the simplest form, bring some japa mala into your home and try chanting every day. Maybe have one Bhagavad Gita and read one verse every day. You'll see a profound experience in your life. Because by reading one verse of Bhagavad Gita, you are having a direct one-on-one conversation with Srila Prabhupada. It's so powerful. Sometimes we don't appreciate. We're reading this Nectar devotion. It's Srila Prabhupada who spoke into a dictaphone. It came onto text, and now it is coming into our consciousness. It is a direct conversation. So a little bit of reading, a little bit of chanting, you'll see great success. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Hare Krishna, everybody.